You know what? I'm going to buy myself an external camera because the quality of my image is just not as good as yours, even close.
Would you like me to downgrade my image? Would that help you?
No. I wonder, can I upgrade my image? Don't answer that too quickly.
This is Sheer Isolation. It's presented by Kieran Moore in Trowbridge and John Ponting in Cricklade. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is Sheer Isolation. I am John. I am in Cricklade, and my friend Kieran over there is in Trowbridge.
Hi, John.
Waving a little lollipop.
It's actually a cocktail stick and a rubber.
I was never going to guess that.
But it does look like those little lollipops you used to have when you were a kid.
Yeah, I may have had a couple of those yesterday, but never mind.
That's why they were on your mind. Hello, John. Hello, how are you?
I'm okay, but it's noticeably getting darker now, week on week.
Well, it's only a few more days and the clocks will all go forwards, so...
And then it'll all be light again. Woohoo! No, it'll be darker again in the evenings.
It'll be dark in the evenings, lighter in the mornings.
Oh, I don't care about that.
No, no do I.
I'm not a
wish
farmer.
They stop playing around with it. Just leave it stationary.
That's your second old man rant of the last 5 minutes, so well done.
I am getting on my old man rants now, aren't I?
You really
I'm
are.
obviously feeling my age.
Purpose of our show, if you're new to us, is to promote the local music and art scene across the west of England, and we'll do that by playing a couple of tunes and by having a guest on. Our guest this week is Sumita Majumdar, who is Swindon. Well, actually, I think she's London-based at the moment, but she is from Swindon. Musician, artist, and really, really interesting. Some of the projects she's worked on through her art and through her little quirky inventiveness, it's really impressive to listen to her. So we've got that coming up. And a couple of tunes. I think we're going to start off with a musician called Chloe Foy, who I am not familiar with, Kieran, so do tell.
So Chloe Foy is a singer-songwriter. So the last few weeks we've picked tracks of artists that are performing at the Town Hall in Trowbridge, mainly to highlight the quality that's going through that venue at the moment, but also to highlight the musicians themselves. And last week we had Sound of the Sirens, who were absolutely exceptional. They were just fantastic. We'll tell you about that in a second. But this week, our guest is Chloe Foy. So Chloe is a soloist, singer-songwriter. She plays electric guitar, but she does it in a very sort of, Katie Malco kind of way. There's definitely roots of that kind of singer-songwritery type vibe, but a bit more electric and full.
I just find it really interesting, the diversity of the acts that you've been getting in Trowbridge lately. Given that you're talking about a single venue and you've got all these incredible different styles of music happening there.
Yeah, credits to Gavin Osborne, who has been booking them. We have got a great sort of spectrum of people, music, genres, age groups, genders. It really has been really, really, really good to have that diversity, and it's been really well received. In fact, the one thing we've really lacked, actually, John, is guys with guitars. We've really lacked that. So I don't know when the next guy with a guitar is due to play either. So it's a while yet.
There's enough of them in the world. That's fine. Let's play Chloe.
This is more than you deserve. So throw your caution out. Take her conscious minute with me.
was a track called Deserve by Chloe Foy. I did say to you I was going to tell you a very brief story about last week's artist, Sound of the Sirens. So you probably know, John, these modern digital desks we've got, you can just literally chuck a USB into the desk and hit a record button. You can literally just do that, boom, in it goes, and you get a copy of whatever's going out on the mix. So effectively, recording the audio, the bit that the audience are hearing. I did this for Sound of the Sirens last week. I sent it over to them as a WAV file, high resolution file. And they've said it's good enough that they're going to share it on their Patreon. So if you are signed up to their Patreon, you're now going to get yourself a live bootleg of Sound of the Sirens at the Trowbridge Town Hall. And I think that's wonderful that we're able, in this day and age, things like that are so simple to do. And you do get really good results off the bat.
I still haven't properly used a digital mixing desk. I'm going to be very lost when I'm presented with one, but then I rarely do it these days. I'm just going to be thrown in at the deep end and have to make it work.
Well, you seem interesting, right? So obviously the evolution of the digital desk took a while to come on and be created. But as soon as they were created, we've moved on to Apple and iPad mixing and tablet mixing. So as soon as their desks were created, they've now already obsolete. Everybody's using tablets now. So that when I use tablets occasionally. I much prefer the physical desk. But yeah, you're absolutely right. For people who've never used one before, it will be quite daunting.
I can't believe I'm going to say that's because you're old-fashioned, because you want to use a digital desk and not use a tablet. Anyway.
Yeah, yes, I probably am, John. I'm already old-fashioned because I want to use a digital desk. You know what? That's a tweet right there. I'm going to tweet that, John. I'm going to do that whilst we're talking.
You have fun.
Take over.
You have fun, and don't you dare try and teach me what Twitter is or how to use it. Time for a guest then. And as I said in the opening link, this week's guest is a friend of mine, Sumita Majumdar, who I've known for years and years and years, kind of met her on the Swindon music scene. She's, well, I'll tell you a little story just so you can understand just the level of quirkiness. Sumita played for me at Tree Fest, and we for some reason, we ended up going out at dawn to watch the sunrise, and we went into the Arboretum, and we were just sat there just watching the sunrise, and she had like a bubble gun, and she was just blowing bubbles at the incoming staff who were arriving for the morning shift. That was kind of the level that Sumita works at. And last time I met her, which was about a month ago, she gave me a little pack of blueberries. And while she was at Tree Fest, she bought a little stick, which was a blueberry bush. And since then, it's now flowered and generated fruit. And she remembered and gave me some fruit from what she had bought at the festival.
That is really lovely.
I invited her on. I mean, I should have invited her on this podcast a long time ago. She's so interesting to talk to. One of the main things I wanted to talk to her about, though, with music and art's work aside, is just about her work in autism and researching and looking to raise a bit more awareness about what it is and how to, like, coping mechanisms and that kind of thing. So we'll start the interview by chatting to Sumita about that. Let's think about Pablo, because this is a program that's on CBeebies, and Pablo is an animation which the main character is an autistic boy called Pablo, and he's got his friends, his characters around him. And you seem to be you were quite pivotal in kind of its birth, its creation, weren't you? So do you want to tell us that? Do you want to start the story there and tell us how did that come
about? How did you find yourself in the position to be offered that?
So Pablo's a 5-year-old autistic child who has a inner art imagination world, which consists of these book animal characters, which are sort of like inner imagination friends that so he goes into an art world which he uses to sort of process what's been happening in his day and like how he feels and thinks. So for Pablo, he might not be able to say or know how he feels or thinks, but when he goes into this art world, these characters, these different animals who represent different traits of him will interact. And so through engaging with that art world, he's able to sort of like in his inner world interact with himself about and figure out how he feels and how he thinks. And so therefore he can sort of find solutions for things that he might find difficult, or he could just enjoy interacting through those animals. So they're all very different. So for example, there's an orangutan called Tang, who's very impulsive and like just loves sort of like spontaneous play and interaction. But then there's Giraffe, who is a giraffe who always wants to follow the rules. And so you can tell how having those two characters, for example, within you could be like kind of cause contradictions within yourself. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like it's, for example, if you put that into a scenario of being in a supermarket, you might be, there might be Tang, who is very excited by all of the things on the shelves and all of the different new products and like all of the sounds and the colourful things and just all of the exciting things in the shop. But then there might be Draff, who knows that you're not meant to take everything off the shelf and you're not meant to kick everything over. And there might be Mouse, who is very sound sensitive, who knows she's getting overwhelmed. But then there's Tang, who wants to stay in the shop. And so when you've got lots of these characters within you, that kind of, I think that's just a way I feel like the cartoon is a good way of representing, of like showing that, it's not just one thing, what it looks like on the outside. There's lots of different things going on.
Well, how you've described it already has educated me and helped me understand autism. And I haven't even watched the program yet.
How did these characters turn into a TV show?
It's produced by Paper Owl Films in Belfast, and Grania McGuinness, she created the idea for the show and the setup for she had this set of characters, and then she started consulting autistic people. So she first consulted with Polly Samuel, who's also known as Donna Williams, who is autistic. She was an autistic artist, musician, writer, many things. And she started talking about her own experiences, and then there was various other people got involved. Rosie King was another person. Yeah,
and you?
Like I was one of those people that got involved in it to sort of just share my own experiences and how I related with the early versions of the scripts that they had.
And you even ended up being one of the voices for one of the characters.
Yeah, so I voiced Wren, who is the yellow bird. She flaps her wings, which symbolises stimming, which is like self-stimulatory behaviours like flapping or spinning or tapping.
And so from this TV show, did that kind of pique your interest into looking at more of the psychology behind autism? Is that how you moved on to doing a bit more study and research into it? So
when I first got involved in the show, when I first looked at the story ideas, I was in a similar place of wanting to express things about multiplicity, and I was wanting to share about my own inner worlds and my own inner world characters. So I was very excited to see that there was going to be a show about a character with his inner world, because in that way, like I know that there's other shows that do that with imagination characters, but I think what's important is showing this, how it's his inner mind processing, and how Pablo is all of these characters as well as his own, and he's using these as a tool to communicate. And that's what really helped me, was like through like music or artwork or just the way that I think, I could only think or like know what I was thinking by thinking through characters, and that was all very like very much like in my own mind. It wasn't something that I shared for most of my life, because like a lot of it is very non-verbal, but through songwriting, I guess, was like the first sort of parts where I was sort of translating those things and talking through stories and characters. And so with the show, with Pablo, I was very excited to know that there were lots of other people that were writing through this format of the show. So I became interested in whether other people writing for the show went through similar or different processes that I did, because we're all very different, all of the people that have written for the show. Everyone's autistic that's written stories for the show. And I was just intrigued by the fact that we're all so different, have different experiences of being autistic, have different lives, yet when we all met and read each other's stories, we could all relate. And I feel like a big part of that is the fact that there were these different inner world characters. And so I began to research about imagination and autistic imagination. So that was what my study was about. I interviewed some of the people that were involved in the show about their imagination worlds as a child and as an adult, and about their process writing for a show like this, and how that related to their mental wellness and mental wellness.
Pablo, the show is also really beneficial for parents who may not fully understand autism if they've got it in their children and don't hadn't previously quite known how to deal with, or what was going on in their kids' minds. So I can imagine it's helped quite a lot of parents out in that regard.
It's a preschool show, but I think one of the main aims of the show was to help, was to show what autistic experiencing from an inside point of view, like the inner world point of view, was like, so that non-autistic children could like better empathize with autistic children, and so that autistic children could have a better experience through the shared empathy. But actually the show has helped a lot of autistic children to be able to like feel represented, and to be able to have something to show their parents, like, look, this is what it's like.
Yeah, definitely. I think you should be really proud of all the work you've been doing on it. I think we probably covered Pablo and the autistic side of things now, unless you had anything else to ask, Kieran?
No, I think that's been brilliant. I want to hear about the music that you make.
I'd always described you as playing quirky, twinkly, sparkly songs. There's no other better way to describe them, I guess. But that's kind of your style. You've been doing it for years. Are you still writing? Are you still recording? Are you still gigging?
That Sumita music stuff was this sugary, sparkly, sugary, overly positive, like happy songs. And I think that sense of it, that sort of optimistic side, is like the kind of, like, I had this character called the Umbrella Bird, which was one of my songs from that sort of phase. And that's the character that most links to Ren from Pablo. I think the album that I did after that was very different from the sugary stuff. Not saying that it wasn't positive and optimistic, because it was in its own way, but it was sort of a different sort of worldscape to that. And after that, that's when the indoor goblin stuff started happening. I've sort of become more into sort of just seeing it more as a live art process of just like, see what happens and put that online. And before I really know what it is, in these little like Instagram video, I've been putting some videos up on Instagram, just these little song things that I don't really know what they are. And that act of doing that helps to translate something that I probably wouldn't have translated or understood if it wasn't for the purpose of performance.
It's probably worth describing or just talking about who the indoor goblin is, because it's kind of it's a second character within yourself with a different music style.
I mean, I don't know what it started as. I think it was, in the indoor goblin stuff it began before it was really music. In fact, that kind of emerged when I stopped doing music. I think stopped for about 7 months and then started again. That kind of, I think I got to the point where I was singing these songs in these pubs, and I just kind of like, because I can hear so much other stuff in my head and I can see all of this stuff, or I could, when I was playing. And then suddenly when I got quite mentally unwell, it was sort of the opposite of that. It kind of, everything stopped. And so I was in the middle of a gig, and I just stopped being able to see that stuff. And I could just hear sonically, I could just hear these piano chords and my voice as it was, like, which is, it's fine. That's what I do now. So there's nothing wrong with that. But like at the time, it was so different to what I was hearing before. And I realized that everyone else could only hear that, and they weren't seeing or hearing what I thought they could hear. And then it just, to me, that just sounded awful. And it was just this big block, and I just hated it. And I just kind of, I just stopped I just thought, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So Indoor Goblin started when I just wanted to visually express through like visual arts. And I started doing these scribble pictures and putting them online, similar to what I said with the song thing, but it was a visual version of that basically.
So what's next? What projects are you working on? Is there anything more in terms of music? Anything more in terms of Pablo? I
would like to do a lot of things, but I'd like to record some more Sumita stuff. I'd like to sort of document the Sumita Unjumbled, like the songwriting therapy song things that I've been doing, and put them somewhere and create more stuff for that. I'd like to do more stuff with the Indoor Goblin stuff, which turned into a sort of performance art music thing. I have lots of shows that I want to sort out for that, but it's very much giant worlds in my head at the same time that I want to do things with, and just need to find the time and space to be able to immerse myself in that, really.
I think that brings us nicely on to the track you've chosen. Would you like to tell us what song you've chosen and why?
So I chose this song called Beyond the When by Polly Samuel, who was known as Donna Williams, who I spoke a bit about earlier. The video has lots of her paintings, which I find really relatable because she's someone that has an inner world that had multiple characters in, and I just relate to her paintings a lot. And she's written in the video description a bit about the song, and there's something that she wrote there about exposure anxiety in particular, and about this fight between wanting to like let yourself out into the world, but wanting to like keep yourself in and safe from all of the outside world stuff. She calls exposure anxiety the invisible cage, and that's something that I sort of relate to a lot with, kind of like when you're sort of this sort of introverted person that also does want to join in.
That wonderful phrase that really evocative, brilliant.
Close your eyes, can you see me? In your mind, am I real? In your heart, can you feel me? And do you dare believe in time beyond the present, past or future? Can your mind conceive of a place where someone's thoughts can reach you? Do you recall? I've seen you there from when we met. I saw you look beyond the when, beyond the where. Though no one's there, you feel someone touch you, and though there is no voice, you know the words. You can feel a shadow brushing past you. Then I reach out and touch your face. You look around, there's no one there. You stumbled on that special place, the place beyond the when, beyond the where. In some rare moment I might need you, just to feel I'm not alone. I close my eyes so I can see you. Then I cross the line of fantasy, where even if I'm not alone, here is the place I feel free. Escape into a twilight zone. And do you recall? I've seen you there for when we met. I saw you look beyond the when, beyond the where.
That was a very good, worthwhile interview, John. Yeah, that's really important to have people like that with their experiences on the session, talking about things like that, and it links very nicely into what we do especially in the venues and the art centres that I work in, Wiltshire Music Centre, etc., who do the projects around people like that and with those sort of stories and voices. Really cool. Thank you ever so much.
I didn't do the talking, it was all Sumita. I'm glad I could introduce you though. Yeah, I think it might be time for some news. Really rushed the news last week because we just ran out of time completely. my bad on timing. But one thing I did want to cover was the news from Cardiff about how the Welsh Government has definitely decided that nightclubs and some venues, but not necessarily all sporting arenas, but only some of the sporting arenas you must show COVID passports. I think actually some of the rugby games, they were going to pick a proportion of the crowd to show COVID passports because the crowd was so big they couldn't check. They couldn't check everybody. From what I understand, the theory was that they didn't want all those people waiting in a line outside, but nightclubs are used to having queues outside, so that's why they have to check everybody.
What a load of arbitrary. I mean, nightclubs, that's fine. They queue anyway, so they can just do that. Yeah, but stadiums are too many people. We can't possibly do it. Let them all in. Just pick them at random. I'm sorry, Wales, but that. I mean, it's great that you want to do that, but my God, that's not the way to go about it.
What I was going to say is that next month I'm going to see Tim Minchin, comedian. He's playing in Cardiff, and I think it's around about a 5,000 capacity in completely covered indoor. So I'll have to report back on what the queues are like and if I was checked. Any news from yourself then, Kieran?
Other than all the tickets are selling, flying out, and the gigs are doing really well. The Village Pump, John, now that we kind of reopened and announced that we reopened, we've had people coming to us left, right and centre wanting to hire the venue to put on their own events. And we've got Luke DeCiccio. He's absolutely selling stacks of tickets. We've just announced Fly Yeti Fly, who are a folk band who live on a barge on the canal. Literally the moment it went live, they sold 7 tickets, like literally the minute it went live. It's crazy, but people are coming back, and it's coming back with a bang.
What we love to hear. Support your venue, support your musicians. That is why we've been doing this. sheerisolation.co.uk or sheerisolation@gmail.com is the email address. We've got a website and Gmail website. You can go back and listen to previous shows or just email us any links to any music or any news that you want to share with us. We will be back next week with
next week, guests. John. We've got loads of guests lined up. We've got the Bath landlady coming. We have Rosie from the Village Pump. We've got a whole bunch of, and funny enough, it's all women, which is wonderful. We've got some wonderful people coming up. I'm really excited about that.
Cool. So we'll be back next week with more guests, more music. So thank you for listening to us, and bye-bye then.
Goodbye.
I never quite know how to finish things off. I'll just say goodbye.
That's enough, John.
Bye. It's enough. We've spoken enough.